best thing that you can do is actually put together an automated process for your business into your CRM, and then actually have that same consistent approach moving right through. So it could be, okay, day one, you make the phone call. Day two, it might be a text message. Day three, it might be an email. So there's actually an automated process so that you don't have to do all of those things automatically. But, contact is really key. So if they're a hot person where they've indicated that they are really interested in changing over, you're calling them every single day, until you get a conversation, which is here's the paperwork, or hey, listen, back off type thing. So, that's really where hot is at. With warm, it's like you're asking them, when would be best for me to get in contact with you? When would be best for me to go and inspect the property? When would be best for me to, organize a Zoom meeting with yourself and your partner? So I think, those things are really kind of critical and key to ask what they need and then try and match them based on that, rather than making the assumptions of what it is that you need for them.
Welcome back to another episode of the Property Management Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Now, this podcast, I like to feel, is your go-to space for mindset, marketing, and making your business work for you with a little bit of fun along the way. And I really do hope that you feel the same way about it. But today, we're going to talk about something most of us love to avoid, and that is prospecting. And if I'm being completely honest, which I always am with you, I absolutely hated it. I was one of those people who built my business on referrals. And for a while, that worked brilliantly. Until one day it didn't. My leads dried up, the phone stopped ringing, and I was left scrambling, wondering where my next client was going to come from. That moment forced me to face the thing I'd been avoiding, real prospecting. And while it felt daunting at first, learning how to prospect in a way that felt aligned and authentic completely changed the game for me. And that's why I'm so excited for today's episode with my guest, the powerhouse herself, Sherrie Storor. Sherrie is a real estate agent, mentor, speaker, and total expert in helping agents stop hustling for scraps and start attracting clients with smart, strategic prospecting systems, plus a whole lot more that she does. And in this episode, we're going to unpack what prospecting really is and why it's so much more than just cold calling and awkward scripts, how prospecting in the digital age looks radically different from the outdated methods we've been taught, why consistent prospecting is the lifeblood of a sustainable real estate business, and how to position yourself as the go-to person in your area so that clients start chasing you, not the other way around. Now, prospecting isn't just about filling your pipeline. It's about building trust, creating visibility, and future-proofing your business. Whether you're brand new or you've been in the game for years, this conversation will inspire you to rethink how you show up, connect, and grow. So if you're ready to take the awkward out of prospecting and turn it into a superpower, then let's dive on in. Thank you so much for joining me on the Property Management Podcast. I'm really excited to have you here and have a conversation with you. Before we dive in, can you share with our audience a little bit about yourself and how you got started doing what you're doing now?
Oh, thank you so much, Kylie. I'm super pumped to be here as well. My name is Sherrie Storor, and I work as a business and a sales coach, helping real estate agents and business owners to really grow their businesses. So I do this through implementing proven sales systems and structures. I also help to grow our teams and EBUs and ELTs, and obviously building celebrity profiles. So this is probably the key components in terms of what I work through. I've been business coaching since 2008. I'm a former business owner and I have my own chain of agencies. So I had about 45 agents working in my business. I had 3 residential offices, built up and sold my own rep roll. I had a cleaning division. I had a project marketing division where we were on site selling in 10 different locations from Cairns all the way down to Byron Bay. I also had a PR division because I have a PR degree. So I operated quite a large agency, but where you'll find me today is really helping a lot of business owners, growing their agencies. And a big key component of that is obviously the rep roll, because that's the one thing that we can borrow against, that we can sell, that really gives us true freedom. So I'm so excited. I'm totally here for today.
That is absolutely amazing. And I didn't realize I listened to you on another podcast, which was Ash Goodchild's, and I didn't realize that you had a rent roll. I, for some reason, had just associated you with sales.
Yes.
But I was really intrigued, and I knew I had to get you on the podcast once I'd heard that you'd had your own rent roll. And even though, it's probably been a while since you've had one, the challenges I'm sure that you faced growing and building it were probably the same challenges that a lot of business owners are experiencing today still. But today's topic, we're going to talk about prospecting, which I have been surprised recently with some of the people that I work with that are not doing prospecting or are absolutely terrified of it. But I want to go back to basics. So, for anyone who may not even know what prospecting is, can you maybe sort of share a little bit about what that is? Because there is a lot of confusion around that. And why is it so important for real estate businesses?
Yeah. Well, I think number one, obviously we're looking to grow our rent roll. So, we're looking to do that because we want to increase our asset, but we also do have attrition that occurs through people selling their properties or just through, losing managements, whether that be that they've had a negative experience or that, for whatever reason. So I think it's really critical here that we are, topping up and making sure that we're maintaining our number, but we're also increasing our number. So prospecting really is an opportunity for us to find leads that we then convert into managements and properties under management. So that's really what we're looking for. So we're looking for those leads, and we're looking for as many free leads as much as possible. So where we're not having to spend money in terms of getting that lead coming through.
Amazing. So I think a lot of people though get mistaken. It is like lead generation is one element to it. You've got your lead coming in there, but I don't know about you, but there's not many leads that I've brought into any of my businesses that I've had one conversation with that are
Yes.
now a paying client.
Yeah.
So for me, the prospecting journey takes on that nurturing element where you've got to, and people in sales talk about filling up your pipeline. I believe that is the same in property management as well. And some of the leads that you bring in, you'll have to prospect or nurture to for weeks, months, and sometimes even years as well.
Well, it does make you feel really good when you've got one after you've been working on it for a few years. But I think, you're exactly right, Kylie. We are looking for leads that we can then nurture to then, convert them across into becoming, listings and properties under management. And so I think the first part, we want to prospect really hard, but then the second part is also the listing presentation itself. So if you get this lead and you're working really hard to get it, we want to make sure that we are closing it 10 out of 10 times. So, whether you are at the listing presentation doing the conversion yourself, or whether it be somebody in your team, it's really important that you do spend the time on the listing presentation to make sure that you are closing it. But I think, coming back to the topic today at hand, which is really about prospecting, there are so many different forms of prospecting. And I do think it's critical here to have an understanding that the first contact is not necessarily where we're going to convert it. It would, in a dream world, that might happen where we may wave our magic wand once or twice, and that might occur. But I think we have to be realistic that we know that we need to build trust, with these clients, with our consumers. And after a period of time where we have demonstrated that we are trustworthy, that we are, viable, partners in terms of their wealth creation portfolio, then we are able to ask for the business. But it's going to take a period of time. And so I think it's really important that we don't have this expectation that one phone call is going to equal one management.
Yeah. Is there a bit of a process that you would say teach to the sales agents and the business owners that you work with or their teams?
Yes.
Because I know you work with a lot of high performing teams as well. Is
Yes.
there a process that you would teach for them to be prospecting or generating leads? And maybe you could give us a bit of an insight into what you would say in that instance. So say
Yeah.
I'm a business owner struggling with lead generation. What would you be saying and teaching me?
Yeah, look, there are so many different strategies, but I think, if we can have a look at a couple of key ones, and I do work with a number of businesses where we are very focused on rent roll growth. Some of the businesses are rent rolls only, so, they're not all sales, but the principles are the same. So whether you be selling, something else online or whether it be, services, the principles are the same. So the first thing that I would say is it is about leveraging your listings and your results. So, that is the number one way that you can really get as many properties as you possibly can from this one opportunity. So we want to turn one listing into two, two listings into four, four into eight, and so forth. So that's really how we can create momentum very quickly. So the way to do that is I have a 51-point checklist that is designed for sales, but you can download and just change it into rent roles. You can just find that at sherriestoror.com/51-point checklist. Totally free. You can download that. But basically what it does is it takes you about, okay, how can we really leverage our listing both from off market to on market? You know, what to do when we've had the property on the market for a while and maybe it hasn't been rented or leased. So what happens when we have a price change? Then what happens after it has actually rented? So, you know, let's say if we're in a tower, in a high-rise tower, and we've just rented a property and they've got an on-site manager there who has paid handsomely for those management rights, I will say. So all credit to them. But, you know, if you're in there and you say, listen, I want to get into this particular building, and it makes sense to get into high rises because the reality is that you don't have as far to go to for inspections. You know, they're all in the one high rise. The body corporate is maintaining the outside, so you've just got to worry about the inside. So there's a lot of great things going on for apartments, particularly in high rises. So you would say, okay, well, we've had this great result here. And then you would basically work through the building and explain, well, you know, how you got this listing, why you've managed it, the type of tenant that you had, you know, the kind of results. So let's say if you rented it very quickly, if it was to a corporate tenant, if it was a furnished property, whatever that might look like. Because quite often you will find that a lot of on-site managers, for example, get quite lazy or they don't always offer that level of service, or perhaps they even get a little bit shop-blind where they're just comparing within their own building instead of what's actually happening with the changes in the marketplace. And so you might then see the opportunity where people may be feeling a little bit frustrated or where they may not be happy with their current management. And so they're just looking for an answer. And so you are the solution to the problem that they've got, right? So I think that's a really easy one to look at. So leveraging your listings and your results. The second thing.
Sorry to interrupt you. Would you do that through social media? Would you do that through outreach with, you know, mail, calling, like finding the contact details? Yeah.
All of the above, actually. So basically from, you know, off market to on market, using social media, using in real life, using text messages, using videos, and using letters. So, you know, this process literally outlines it all in great detail. I'm obviously a detail orientated person, so you may not need to use all 51 steps, but you might say, listen, we're going to use 30 of those. And once we've got those 30 down pat for, let's say, 5 transactions, then you might do another 5. Now, I think, Kylie, coming back to this 51-point checklist, where a lot of people fall down is they might do it for maybe 1 or 2 properties, but it's just about consistency in your business. So, you know, I want to talk about this magic wand again, a Disney wand. You know, often people will say to me, well, what's the one thing that can have massive traction in my business? And I would love to say that it's one thing, but it's consistency. So, you know, if you are consistently doing this for every single property and every single listing, you know, this is where your business will grow. It will take time. You know, a lot of these systems do take times, but it's like if you're doing things that others aren't, of course, you're going to get results that others aren't. So, you know, I would recommend slowing down, implementing it, and just, you know, running it through consistently.
I totally agree. You're speaking my language there. I am a huge convert when it comes to consistency, whether that's social media, whether that's following the process for every single management that comes into your business or team member that comes in, whatever it is, you've got to have your process and you've got to follow it consistency. No cutting corners, and the results do come, but you do have to have a lot of patience and you do have to have a lot of resilience, which I think a lot of people that I talk to as well, the whole idea of prospecting, and whether that's, you know, you're picking up a phone and cold calling somebody, or whether you're sending out, you know, the old fashioned letters in the post, or whatever you're doing, there seems to be a real fear around doing that. What would you say to somebody who is really wanting to, they've got a whole heap of leads that they're coming in, whether that's, you know, through whatever channels, but they're just terrified of prospecting and picking up the phone and calling people?
Yeah, well, I think most people don't like really picking up the phone, myself included. So I think, you know, if we can find those opportunities that are warm rather than cold, it makes sense. And so, you know, in the example that I just gave to you about a high rise, for example, so the people who are calling you off the back of the letters or what have you, they're going to be a much nicer call than, let's say, cold calling in the building. Or if you're calling through the building, hey, listen, just wanted to let you know, we've just actually rented, you know, unit 1, 2, 3 on level 22. This particular property rented for $20 more or 10% more than what the others are of the similar sort of floor plan, we're finding that the market's really moving for these particular reasons. So I think if you're giving them information and then, at the end asking them, hey, how are you happy with your current management? Would you be interested in talking around how we might be able to help you? So I think those things are really critical and key. So providing value first before asking for the business immediately. But a warm call is always much easier and much nicer than a cold call. So I think if you can find those warm opportunities first, that would be what I would recommend to do.
Amazing advice.
Yeah. So I think, off the back of that, the other thing that I would look at is if you're working in an office, I would really make besties with the salespeople. And so really make sure that the salespeople are giving you leads. So whether it's a property that they've actually just sold who's been sold to an investor, or whether the particular property that they've had on the market didn't sell, but they actually met a number of investors through the open home process, that that they're being passed over. So even if they haven't purchased anything, when they have purchased something, that you're the number one call. So it's about building those relationships so that you're able to then kind of get in there from a warm point of view. So your salespeople and referrals are the easiest and the best ones, because you've got somebody who's a third party who's edifying how great you are, and so that lead is going to be a lot more comfortable to speak to, rather than having to do the cold call. Hi, I'm a real estate agent. Everyone winces. I don't know why we've got a bad reputation, because there's so many amazing people like you in the industry, Kylie. So but that's the reality of it. So I think if we can find those warm opportunities, they'd be the ones that I'd be hammering first. I think we go from hot down to warm down to cold. So your cold is when you're absolutely got everything else rocking and rolling, and it's like, okay, you've got to use your research portal and pick up the phone numbers and sort of go through. But I really do advise the warm is much it's a much nicer way to go about it.
Yeah, and there's probably a whole other podcast episode we could do on cold calling and the mindset around that
Totally.
as well. So one of the other questions I get asked a lot is when it comes to the outreach with leads, what do you recommend in terms of how often is too much? Do you call them? And I guess that also comes down to, are they cold, warm, or hot?
Yes.
Obviously, and I won't answer that for you, but yeah, what is the process for reaching out to them? What are some, and again, you've probably already answered this in terms of the outreach conversations around adding value. But yeah, do you have a bit of a process that you recommend around that whole outreach to leads? Are you feeling overwhelmed and thinking about selling your rent roll? Don't worry, you're not alone, and HDNU is here to help. Whether you're ready to sell now or you just want to plan for the future, the friendly and approachable team at HDNU makes the process simple and stress-free. Hello, yes please. With over 30 years of expertise, they're not just about crunching the numbers. They genuinely care about helping you maximize your agency's value and get the best outcome for you. Their sales readiness bundle is like having a trusted advisor by your side. They'll work closely with you to assess your agency's key factors, create an easy to understand heat map of your strengths and opportunities, and then sit down with you for a 90-minute workshop to guide you on what to do next. They'll look at everything from rent roll earnings and rent arrears to compliance and team performance and explain it all in plain English. If you're planning to sell soon, HDNU can even handle the whole process for you, from finding qualified buyers to negotiating the deal. Their friendly, professional team takes the stress out of selling so you can feel confident every step of the way. And to get started, simply book in a meeting with the team today. Their link is in the show notes. They're here to help you move forward with confidence. Let's be real. Compliance is one of the biggest challenges in property management, and it can be overwhelming to navigate. It's time-consuming, stressful, and let's face it, one missed compliance check could lead to serious legal and financial risks, and no one wants that. That's where Sensor Insure comes in. Powered by smart sensor technology, it offers highly competitive building and landlord insurance, bundled with an ecosystem of smart safety devices. These include tamper-proof smoke alarms and water leak detectors with automated remote testing and a 24/7 accessible audit trail. Yes, you heard me right. Sensor Insure is a game changer. It's always on and integrates seamlessly with your trust platform to streamline processes and provides live reporting across your entire rental portfolio. This ensures you're always meeting compliance requirements, giving you total peace of mind. No more waking up in the middle of the night stressed or worried that you've missed something or your team has missed something. So whether you're looking to improve your processes and efficiency, reduce stress, or protect your agency from risk, Sensor Insure has you covered. You really should see how it works. I totally encourage you to book in a free demo today by heading to sensorglobal.com or the show notes to learn more about their solutions and how they can transform your compliance game.
Yeah, I think the best thing that you can do is actually put together an automated process for your business into your CRM, and then actually have that same consistent approach moving right through. So it could be, okay, day one, you make the phone call. Day two, it might be a text message. Day three, it might be an email. So there's actually an automated process so that you don't have to do all of those things automatically. But, contact is really key. So if they're a hot person where they've indicated that they are really interested in changing over, you're calling them every single day, until you get a conversation, which is here's the paperwork, or hey, listen, back off type thing. So, that's really where hot is at. With warm, it's like you're asking them, when would be best for me to get in contact with you? When would be best for me to go and inspect the property? When would be best for me to, organize a Zoom meeting with yourself and your partner? So I think, those things are really kind of critical and key to ask what they need and then try and match them based on that, rather than making the assumptions of what it is that you need for them. You might be working with a couple where, the husband and wife are on two totally different timelines, or there's things happening in their life. There might be, situations with family and kids and so forth. So I think, being considerate to what their needs are, they're going to love you even more, because again, when you've got a property portfolio, these things often are at the back of your mind, but it's set and forget. So if somebody is working in with them in terms of what their needs are on their timeframes, not instead of, okay, I've got to try and disrupt everything to try and work in with them, they're going to love you a lot more. So that's really, kind of critical here.
Amazing. And what about, like, obviously we've been in the technology age for a long time now, but now we're entering into the AI age as well.
Yes.
Now, and I guess I want you to just cast your vision forward a little bit, and probably don't have to go that far forward because AI is changing quicker than ever. But do you ever see there'll be a real estate world where we won't need to be prospecting, or we won't need to be building these relationships with our leads?
Look, that's a great question. I think if I can answer the question in two parts, the first one is yes and no. So I think, younger society today, the different generations, they don't really want to speak on the phone. So they're really comfortable speaking to, let's say, a chatbot. If the chatbot is built well, for example, with the right kind of questions. So they'd be really comfortable doing that, But I do think, the older fashioned, so I class myself as a real estate dinosaur now. I'm in my mid-40s. Actually, I'm just turned 47. I had a birthday last week.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. So, so I still like to speak to someone on the phone. I want that reassurance. So I think there will always need to be those personal levels of relationship. Even with what's just happened in Southeast Queensland, for example, with all the wild weather, my husband and I have a property portfolio, and so we see things from the landlord's point of view, but we also see things, we're also tenants ourselves, so we see things from the tenant's point of view. And it was really interesting seeing all the various different agencies and how they chose to communicate with us. But a lot of our properties, for example, they're furnished, and so me having to pick up the phone and say to the property manager, hey, listen, we've got international students in the property in Brisbane CBD. Can you please call the students and tell them that they need to bring in the potted plants? Because they just wouldn't think of that. No. They've never been in a cyclone before. So it's like, as a landlord, I had to sort of explain that to my property manager because they had so much going on. So I think if you could have the foresight and to build a portfolio and relationships with people where you've been through some of these things, where you can say, okay, well, these are the things that I need to know. Here are the furnished properties. So part of your processes, you might say, here are our furnished properties. We need to individually get on the phone and speak to these particular people. So it's really about building out those relationships so it seems like that was personalized, but really behind it, there's a system where we're just going through calling every single person and sort of letting them know, or sending them a text message or whatever that needs to occur. So I do agree that relationships are really critical and key for particular demographics. For other ones, I think that they do just want, ease. But at the end of the day, I think if you can demonstrate that you are building their portfolio through wealth creation, that we're using the equity in one property to perhaps buy another one, or that we're getting the most amount out of their property, or maybe after they've had the property for 10 years, is it time to to renovate there and to help them with that sort of process so that they get a better quality tenant and that they do get a higher return and that they can claim higher depreciation. They're going to love you for all of that. And so they're going to then be building their portfolios, and who's going to be managing them? You. So I think there will always at the key be that trusted relationship, but I think how we interact will be different. And so building that trust will be after we've got that relationship with them, after that ease.
Yep. And I think you've just touched on a really good point there as well. I think by being more than just a person that manages their property and finds them tenants, and being that holistic part of their wealth creation journey, that sets you up to open the door for prospects to come to you.
Yes.
Right. Then you have to, if you're promoting yourself correctly on social media and digital marketing and all the avenues, and you're sharing the things that you do differently to the property management company that just manages the property and finds you a tenant and collects the rent, prospecting you won't need it then, I guess. So yeah, I know you do this very well, in terms of the digital marketing side of things, and it's something that I'm very passionate about sharing with everybody as well. Do you see perhaps that is the art of mastering prospecting, is by having your profile online set up as that go-to expert, different property manager, the anti-property manager, the wealth, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Well, social media, it is a form of prospecting. And so each social media channel that we have is actually a separate database. So, I mean, we don't spend time doing this unless we're actually getting a return on it. So, you and I wouldn't be doing it ourselves in our own businesses if we weren't getting a return on it. So we do, highly recommend that. I think, we need to be putting our own databases from our CRM into Facebook, into LinkedIn, and we need to be creating ads to them. TikTok's another great opportunity right now. So I think we do want to be utilizing social media. We want to be creating ads talking about, the level of services and creating testimonials and third-party edifications. And then we want to be creating lookalike audiences that we're also doing those kind of advertising to. We also want to be doing lead capture pages. So a lead capture page, for those that may be listening that may not be aware of that, is simply where you pop in your details and then you get a downloadable as a result of that. So in the particular, like classic example, I've just told everyone about my 51-point checklist. Go and download it, right? And then you pop in your details, you'll get the downloadable and you'll have that. So you could do the same thing for property management. So it could be the top 10 things that you need to know when investing for the first time, for example. So the top 10 things that you need to know that you may not be achieving with your current investment property, what you need to know before buying your next investment property. So you could be writing all of these kind of little articles, and people are downloading this, going, because at the end of the day, real estate's Australia's biggest hobby. We absolutely love it. And so, but there's always this one extra thing, like, what's that one thing that I don't know that I'm thinking from an investor's point of view? So if we can wet their whistle and get them sort of excited and to download it, then you know that you've got a warm lead there, because somebody is looking to invest or somebody is currently an investor. And so here you are, you're going to be able to service their needs. So social media, it is very powerful today. It isn't the way of the future. It's most certainly here. If you're not utilizing that right now, you are really getting left behind, and it is a huge opportunity for growth in your business. This is where most people are spending time. It's online. We spend 8 hours per day for most people. Like, if you have a look at how many hours per week you're spending on your phone, most people, it's quite a huge amount. So if you're not where your consumers are, you're getting left behind.
Absolutely amazing. That's exactly how all that stuff you just said is exactly how I have built that property mum. So nobody in the industry knew me back before, 2019, I think I started this.
Yeah.
Nobody knew me at all in the industry, and I have just dived into the world of digital marketing and built my brand and profile. And obviously, the income streams have come off the back of that. But it started with embracing that whole world of digital marketing. So, and in fact, probably most of the listeners on the podcast probably started out with downloading something from me originally, or have been hit with a Facebook ad or a multitude of Facebook ads. So, yeah, so it is. I do have a lot of trainings that I have done on actually creating those lead magnets and those landing pages to capture leads as well. So, and I think sometimes people try things once and it doesn't work. And I guess that comes back to what we were saying earlier, that consistency. I'm sure the first lead magnet I put out there didn't get me any leads, but then I tweaked it and I did some more work and I revised it. And then I found the thing that really did work. And then I put ads to it. And that then, led to, just more and more business. So yeah, so that's really great advice. And it's great.
You and I are products of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, great adverts for that. It actually does work if you get consistent with it. The amount of people that I work with that say in real estate that say Facebook ads don't work. We've tried Facebook ads and they've boosted a couple of ads, but it's way more strategic than that. Yes. When it comes to real estate. So, and again, that's probably a topic for another podcast episode. Now, I love personal development. Could you share a tool, resource, book, podcast, something that you feel would help our audience? It doesn't have to be around prospecting or lead gen, but whatever.
Yeah. Look, to be honest, I do see myself, as a student. So, a student of life. And so I'm constantly, working on myself and trying to educate myself in the practice of life, becoming a better partner, becoming a better family member, becoming a better leader, becoming a better sort of manager. So I'm always working on those things. For me, I think the biggest educational resource that I have is my mastermind program, because I've sort of built it out so that I'm learning from all the people that I've wanted to listen to, and then they're speaking one-on-one to this sort of group. And so I feel like I've learned so much over the years. So, and there's so many diamonds. I think, I'm getting ready to interview Terry Irwin actually in 2 weeks' time. And,
wow,
I'm just thinking about, that woman who is just such an incredible person, so strong that, her husband died 20 years ago. And yet, she's built this incredible legacy. Like, she's built this business where, she came from over, in the States. She met some crazy guy over on the Sunshine Coast. They, and they started this television show on some small network, which ended up becoming this global empire. And on his passing, she's managed to, still maintain Australia Zoo and the Crocodile Hunter as a global educational piece. She's a wildlife warrior, but she's raised 2 children. She now has a grandchild, but these 2 children have now built, celebrity profiles as well. Like we've seen what Robert Irwin's doing on the television. Bindi is, CEO of Australia Zoo. So it makes me think, well, how did she build a celebrity profile for herself and for Steve, and how did she do it with the kids, and how did she actually get 2 level-head children? Like, I'm really interested to learn that. So I have obviously had some catch-ups with Terry, and so she has passed on some of the learnings to me. So perhaps I can share one thing with you that obviously the masterminders haven't even heard as yet, because this is happening in a couple of weeks' time. But, she talks a lot about perspective, and she says, our perspective is all different. And so, if you are somebody who is listening to this and you're a BDM, you have the perspective of your role as a BDM. If you're listening to this and your perspective is as a business owner, you have the perspective as a business owner. So from the BDM's point of view, they don't understand about, watching costs and mining costs if they've never had that perspective. So it's up to us as the business owner to explain that to the BDM so that they then have a new perspective. So I think it's really important, in dealing with anything in life, whether it be roles or whether it be challenging circumstances or a problem or a complaint, to have a look at the perspective in terms of where you're coming from and where the other person is coming from, and to try and build a new perspective based on the other person's, interactions.
Oh, absolutely love that. That is amazing. That is fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that is so smart of you that you have got those amazing people to learn from inside your own mastermind. So yeah, take my hat off to you there. Very smart. Now, how can our audience connect with you, reach out to you further? I will share lots of links in the show notes.
Oh, thank you, Kylie.
But what's the best place for somebody to get in touch with
Yeah,
you?
follow me on social, just like you were talking about earlier. So if it's just at Sherrie Storor, which is SherrieStoror. So if you follow me on there, I'm pretty responsive even in my DMs. So feel free to interact and to reach out. But I really appreciate the opportunity to chat today. And thank you so much for having me on the show.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge with everyone. If you're ready to be a super organised, focused and productive property manager, buckle up, because Colmio is about to revolutionise the way that you work. Colmio is the driving force behind property management excellence in residential real estate. Now picture this, a comprehensive end-to-end system designed to be the beating heart of your property management tasks, manage your properties, owners and tenants, and handle payments, inspections, and even marketing listings without leaving the platform. Colmio is designed to be an all-in-one solution to all your property management needs. And here's the game changer. Colmio isn't just software. It's been awarded the most innovative PropTech Scale Up in 2023. Yes, you heard it right. Colmio has been recognised for their groundbreaking approach to property management software. How good is that? So property managers, whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, dive into the future of property management with Colmio. You can book in a demo with the team today and go in their weekly draw for a Prezi gift card worth $100. All you need to do is to head to the link colmio.com/thatpropertymum, and Colmio is KOLMEO. Can I ask you a quick favour before you leave this episode? Now, we all know how important reviews are for businesses these days, and mine is no different. If you could spare just a minute to follow, rate and review this podcast, it would mean a lot to me. In fact, what would get me super excited is if you share this podcast with someone in the industry who you think might need to hear some of the episodes right now. And if you'd like to find out more about working with me or any of the products I have to help you start, grow or scale your property management business, head to my website, thatpropertymum.com.au, or check out the links in the show notes.